Benjamin Castle are Americans. Watching the footy.
Liam Ryan saying, kick it my way, I want to jump over the pack, and here he comes! Ryan!
This is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman!
Got the handball off to Myers. Myers looking for the lead of Stengel. Gee, they're good. Gee, they're sharp. Razzle dazzle Rioli.
Oh, who else? McDonald!
No,
around the body. Jazz up!
He's off from inside the centre square. Boys kick the goal. Boys kick the goal from inside the centre. Fuck! I can't believe it.
Good time of day, everyone, and welcome to Season 4 of Americans Watching the Footy. I am Benjamin Castle, coming to you from San Diego.
I'm Ethan Castle, coming to you from South San Francisco, California. I guess we never really called our last episode even the Season 3 finale. I guess it just kind of happened.
Yeah, we were expecting to do an episode while I was back for winter break, but that didn't end up happening. I think we just didn't have schedules that overlapped a lot of the time, so I'm back in San Diego doing my intercession.
And I'm at home.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, this is home for me too, and it's going to be a tough decision whether I stay at this home or go back home to other home. But I've gotten into some adventures while I've been down here, purposefully at this point.
Such as?
Walking.
Is the whole thing just a walk cycle, the whole lost episode?
Feels like a combination of that plus just long walks on the beach, or at least the first leg of my walk. I know what you're thinking of now, Ethan.
What? The lost episode? Will Ferrell introducing Darwin Barney?
That.
Two very different things.
Yeah. He enjoys long walks on the beach, completely naked.
But I also was thinking you could just start walking like the SpongeBob lost episode walk cycle thingy.
Maybe that should be on my soundtrack at some point. I could probably find that production music on Spotify.
Let me know when you're going to do this Spotify jam thing, which I knew nothing about because really other than for occasional podcast things, I really hardly use Spotify.
Really? I'm kind of surprised. I've got premium and I use that quite heavily. I was thinking, and I mentioned this to Ethan. I also mentioned on my r/AFL posts that maybe I could invite people to kind of fuck with me on my walk in some way. I feel like the best way to do that is to just completely mess up my music choices, because I'll have a lot of time to listen to music if I'm walking 20 or so miles for a number of days. So one of those days, I'll set up a Spotify jam and just have people fill up my queue with the most random things. And because I'm hosting it, it means it's going to influence my Wrapped at the end of the year.
I've got some ideas.
Other than Cupcake,
oh, I wasn't even thinking of that. That's a good idea.
I feel like that's way too easy.
Oh, actually, you know what I'm thinking of now, though, that I hadn't even thought of before? One of the songs that if you're watching Professor on Twitch, you have to rack up an ungodly amount of channel points to play. Bouncing Boobies.
I sadly understand.
God, I can have some fun with this. Shit.
Well, I feel like I'll need to make the jam public a number of hours before to account for the time difference.
I'm going to have some fun with this, though, between that and one other idea that I'm surprised you haven't even mentioned yet.
Well, some ideas are probably best left unmentioned just to completely throw me off.
Yeah, I've got one it's predictable, but it's going to be fun.
Is it a bunch of What's New Pussycat by Sir Tom Jones in a row, then one It's Not Unusual before going back to What's New Pussycat? Thank you, John Mulaney.
That is exactly what it is.
That's what the Salt and Pepper Diner.
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
Get some new material, man.
No, because this will be way funnier when you actually have to live through it.
I don't mind the song.
You'll mind it after 21 times in a row.
Only 21?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've posted about it on r/AFL and on Twitter. I have started my walk, which I put upon myself after losing a bet against myself from that Saints and Swans game back in, what round was that actually?
It was
around
July, maybe?
It was early July, round 17. It was a 2-point Saints win, and I said that if the Saints managed to win that game, I would walk from San Diego to Los Angeles, and I have started that. It's going to be about 160 miles total.
July 7th. I watched that in Utah.
You watched it from Utah. I watched it from San Diego. And I made this bet against myself. You didn't prompt me. I just did it. And yeah, my route total is about 160 miles, so about 258 kilometers. And I'm walking it in legs of about 20 miles each. I did my first leg, which is definitely the most scenic, pretty recently on a few days before recording this. Took me from where I'm living in the northern part of San Diego up to Leucadia, North County, just a lot of beachfront views. And it also took me right by one of the best golf courses in the world, Torrey Pines. And they're preparing to host a tournament there. So it was interesting seeing some of the preparations going on there right now, La Jolla. I can't go the straight route up the coast because I would be walking straight onto a Marine base, and I can't do that. I don't have that clearance. That's Camp Pendleton, which is one of the larger Marines bases. San Diego, for those of you unaware, is a big time base for Navy and Marines operation.
Okay, well, I'm just looking at this and looking at some of the areas you're going to go through.
I'm going to go decently inland into Riverside County before going into LA County, and hopefully by then the fires will be cleared up.
All right, so I guess you're not really going through like South Central LA. You're going through more like heavily Hispanic areas, but it would still be pretty cool if you wore all blue and held up a fuck YG sign. Or I guess just wear all red and maybe a number 14.
That's a Norteños thing.
Yes. Or you could just recreate the scene from Die Hard.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
With a sandwich board that says, I hate everybody.
That's what it says in the censored version.
Yep. It just been, I hate minorities or black people, but no.
Yeah, in the censored version, instead of I hate the N-word with the hard R, it just says I hate everybody. It really takes the power of the spine.
That's the funniest part, is that it makes no sense.
No, for it to make, it's got to be like comically out of place for it to be like that. Like, actually, come to think of it,
I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
Is actually totally in line with the ludicrous nature of snakes on a plane.
Trying to think of other really funny things that you could put on there instead. I hate Superman. I hate puppies.
Fuck the game. Yeah, because I'm not going through like West Side, it wouldn't be nearly as good.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Had I managed to go up the coast, then maybe that could have worked, but I will be starting my journey inland.
I'm really hoping you get some really shit weather.
Honestly, one of the reasons why I'm planning my walk the way I am and doing multiple days in a week when possible is to kind of give myself rain checks.
And that's unfortunate.
I just realized this weekend, people will have a chance to meet me in
Temecula.
Do people know about Meet Me in Temecula? I'm not sure if Australians do.
I think they have to. With how Australia's dialed into the NBA and shit posting, I feel pretty good about that one.
The 10th anniversary of this just passed, actually, because it was Christmas Day 2014. There was something about Westbrook being the best shooting guard in the NBA, and it all started from there. And one of them said, meet me in Temecula, and I believe the other guy stood him up.
Yeah, I'm just really disappointed, looking back on that I wasn't the one to come up with and claim the username Snotty Drippin'.
Much better than my tweets Real AF.
I don't know, they're both pretty great for different reasons. So there's your walk update, I guess.
Yeah, and I'll be starting much earlier on those days. I only got out around 10:30 a.m. on Friday for leg one.
Because, I mean, these were like, what, 20-ish mile days?
Yeah, and you know, that takes a good, it was around 8 hours walking time, and I was really laboring through those last few miles.
Were you going uphill, or?
I mean, part of it was uphill, especially once I actually got toward Solana Beach.
Because, I mean, just walking flat ground you could do all day.
Yeah, looks like my biggest uphill, looks like there's going to be hardly any elevation change for leg 2. Like at the most is a climb of about 500 feet before halfway. So shouldn't be all that bad. And I've got everything planned out to avoid highways and things like that. Well, there are some places where, you know, people just live right on the highway. Like in North County, people just live right on Highway 101 and it's completely normal.
Oh, yeah, where that's just a road, though. That's just a surface road. That's not, a freeway.
Yeah, I'm not going on any interstates or anything like that. I guess actually on the end, I'll be pretty closely following or walking on the side of State Road 76.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you'll be walking, you might hit some overpasses or underpasses or something.
Yeah, but nothing too bad.
This is less stupid than it could be is really the main point.
That's a good thing, because it's pretty stupid to begin with. But I'll keep posting updates on Twitter at the end of each session, kind of like a cricket match, and doing a daily recap at r/AFL. Speaking of AFL matters, we have had some developments since we last recorded. Obviously, I mean, people have had their Christmas breaks. They're now back and training down the house, of course.
Yeah, basically to sum it up, there's been people killing, people dying, children hurt, you hear them crying.
Unexpected black-eyed peas. And also Justin Timberlake.
Yes.
I actually don't think he's credited on there, but you could definitely hear him.
On Genius, it's listed as him.
But I mean, like, on the official record, I don't think he's credited as a performer. Let me check. Yeah, he's not, but it's very much him.
I never knew that until now. So, okay. Guess we all learned something today.
Nah. Well, I did actually in my education class, but that's beside the point.
Nerd!
On the disciplinary side, Noah Balta was suspended 4 games for an assault charge in Country New South Wales. Not the player I would expect to get into that, but Richmond has had some weird things going on. Because do you remember the whole 2020 incident at the kebab shop?
Vaguely?
That was Callum Coleman-Jones and Sydney Stack.
Right.
I forget if there was a COVID breach involved in that too, but that ended up being like a 10-game suspension for both of them, but neither of them were real prominent players. This one is Noah Balta.
Maybe their best player left at this point.
So, I mean, it would probably be between him and Tim Taranto and Nick Flostone.
Yeah, Tom Lynch went actually healthy. But basically, congratulations, Carlton, Port Adelaide, St. Kilda, and Brisbane. If any of you actually lose to Richmond, you're never going to fucking hear the end of it.
Well, Port Adelaide's going to be without Todd Marshall for that, and probably the entire season.
Ruptured his Achilles, which sucks. The possible outcomes from this in terms of how does it affect Port on the field become really interesting. Like, you just look at the possibilities to fill in. Is this the beginning of the Jeremy Finlayson redemption arc? I think Mitch Georgiadis' fantasy value just went way the hell up.
He was their leading goal kicker last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, but now it's just like, he is the tall forward. Or do they do the funniest possible thing and bring Asaba forward?
Or coax Charlie Dixon out of retirement?
No, I think just the idea of forward Asaba is extremely funny because it would give him chances to do things on the goal line, just on the opposite end.
Well, he did swing forward a couple times last year.
I've never questioned his ability to take a contested mark. It's the whole kicking afterwards thing.
He kicked 4-7 in 2024, including in rounds 20 and 21. At Carlton, he kicked 2-1, and then hosting Sydney in that surprise bludgeoning, he kicked 1-4. But it's also just funny because he was brought in to solve a completely different problem, which still hasn't been solved defensively for them. I think more likely for a Port, you could see a sort of redemption arc or maybe start or something for Ollie Lord, or maybe this could right away present an opportunity for one of their draftees to step up.
Maybe Jack Lukosius goes further forward. That's another option. None of the options here gets you really excited.
Lukosius is a very curious player to me. Mercurial is a term that can apply in terms of his output, and I'm not confident with him performing that well against any team other than Geelong, who he's hit for 2 bags of 5 these past 2 years.
Like, they're all viable options, but none that I feel great about. Whereas, like, when, for example, Tom Hawkins gets hurt, it's like, all right, Shannon Neal, it's your time. I don't have that sort of confidence in any of these opportunities. I think the best case scenario would just be for one of these options to end up, decent.
I think this is a pretty strong opportunity right away for Joe Barry. I was trying to remember his name. He was pick 15 out of the Talent League Port traded up a pick with West Coast to get this kid, and I think West Coast kind of blocked Frio from getting him because of it. Joe Barry in 14 Talent League games in 2024 kicked 27 goals, also kicked 9 in 4 games in the Under-18 championships for Vic Country. I guess the opportunities then would probably be for Barry, Lord, and Lukosius.
Could you also maybe move Soldo into a forward role again? Remember he was going to go to St. Kilda and then that didn't happen and they just kind of seemed to settle for each other, him and Port.
It's like I got no other option than to go back to mom's house. But yeah, that's another possibility. And we kind of did forget about Soldo down the stretch this year because of just how well Jordan Sweet played in the ruck. But we also had talked about Soldo's flexibility before. So there's another possibility, especially if you want a bigger body down there to help out Georgianis.
I actually feel better about that idea than I feel about like any of the others except for Finlayson.
And I'd say Soldo over Finlayson personally.
I just think Soldo also, offers other things. Like what if things don't go well for Jordan Sweet?
That's the main one there. There's more flexibility that you get with Soldo. Looking elsewhere injury-wise, looks like Sam Walsh did his hamstring, so he'll be out of main training for the next month at least. Nothing that threatens the start of his season quite yet, as he will rehab and Charlie Colonel will deal with his knee. Oh, speaking of luckless players,
Christian Petrarca, cracked rib again.
Was the first surgery botched? Did they refuse to take him off the oval?
I thought it was he didn't come off.
I forget at this point. I think they just didn't know better and he was adrenaline fueled is what it came down to. I know that some people have started to kind of be against Petrarca for kind of being about his own brand and the talks around trade requests this year. I hope things work out for him in Melbourne because I have absolutely nothing against them. Honestly, they seem like a pretty benign fan base in comparison. I think that's part of why.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about them is if you talk shit about them, nobody's really there to refute it or get mad at you.
They'll just be skiing.
What do they do this time of year?
Bali?
Maybe someone comes skiing here.
Honestly, they probably have the money.
I don't know if I made this point before, but you know who skis and wears Melbourne colors?
Norwegian biathletes?
Stupid Sexy Flanders.
Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Stupid sexy Flanders.
Good point. But yeah, I can totally see it now. Just a bunch of people with Melbourne beanies and stuff over in Park City.
Hold up.
I never mentioned on my walk, day one, happened to meet a Saints fan. The odds of this were so incredibly slim.
What did the actual conversation go like?
So I didn't actually say why I was there, why I was doing my walk, because we talked for like 5 minutes about the footy and other things, but it was just this middle-aged woman wearing a Saints hat. I asked her about St. Kilda, told her that I'm an Eagles member. We got talking about this past year. She also said that when she goes back to Australia, tries to take new people to the footy every time. And her husband is a Melbourne supporter, so when they are there in March, they'll be there for some of the early D's games at the G.
And you didn't mention, oh yeah, I'm walking 20 miles today and more than 100 miles in all because I said there was no way they'd beat Sydney.
Want to present myself as completely batshit insane. In hindsight, I should have.
You absolutely should have. You really fucked that one.
I just couldn't believe the fact that I saw somebody with an actual footy hat out there. Oh, I should do an Instagram live at some point, especially near the end.
At some point in the fall, I saw a guy in a Hawks jumper, and I rolled down the window to try to say something to him, but he had his headphones in.
This woman had her earbuds in, but I managed to stop her for a bit of a conversation. So that was on Friday. And then on Saturday, I saw a few Australians playing basketball because I saw Australia's team. I feel like we mentioned that almost every time one of us, usually you, goes to watch St. Mary's.
I don't know if I mentioned it during the Utah State game.
I think you posted it.
Maybe. I definitely did during the Akron game.
Do we know exactly how that connection with Australia started?
No, I forget.
Hey, I'm looking it up. It looks like one of Randy Bennett's first recruits was Adam Caporn, who is now an assistant coach with the Wizards. This was a recruit of Randy Bennett's right when he got on the job, and he's had at least one Australian player every year since then. Right now, St. Mary's has 3 on the roster. Rory Hawk, I did not see play. He's from Queensland, I believe, Townsville. Then there's...
he didn't play?
Nah, I think he was in a hoodie.
It would have been cool if you could have said that, there was a pass from Hawk to a cutting player.
There we go.
You're welcome for that.
Hawk wasn't dressed, but Joshua Dent was, and Harry Wessels was. Dent is from Wollongong. Wessels is from Boddington, which is a tiny little Western Australian town. And his whole family was there. Boddington's in the Peel region, so that's 75 miles out of Perth. But the game was a blowout, as to be expected, because St. Mary's is much better than San Diego is.
To give up 100 to St. Mary's is really bad. It's one thing to get held, if they held you under 50. Like, the way St. Mary's plays, getting held under 50 would be like, well, that's shitty, but it happens. But giving up 100 to them takes a lot of work.
Yeah, their highest score before that this year was in their second game against Chattanooga, when they scored 86. But yeah, 103 to 56. And 17 of those points were by Australians, all of which occurred after I started an Aussie chant when things were just already out of hand. There were 9 minutes to go. Nothing was really going on. Harry Wessels checks back in. He's their backup center. So I started an Aussie chant. St. Mary's section completes it with me. And immediately Wessels throws down a dunk and then gets an and one. And I managed to meet him afterwards when I stuck around, talked to his family as well. And it was just nice to know that he and they are all Eagles fans as well. Their play-by-play broadcaster for home games, though, is a Frio fan. So hopefully Harry gives him shit for that.
He became a fan just when they were on the team trip a couple of years ago, and he was at the Western Derby.
Yeah, Brian Brownfield.
I think he had footy exposure before that.
You have to if you're working with St. Mary's. He wasn't at that game in San Diego, though, because he's also now some information director for Stanford football.
I saw 3 Australians playing basketball on Thursday for Portland. Max McKinnon, Elon transfer, dropped 28. USF only beat him by 9. And then freshman Austin Rapp scored 19. His older brother Ryan transferred from Washington State to Hawaii and was actually originally committed to USF and was the only recruit USF lost when Kyle Smith took the Wazoo job. But yeah, this kid Austin Rapp, 6'10 freshman, he's actually pretty decent on a pretty lousy Portland team.
He's from Melbourne.
Yeah, but he had a couple of bad turnovers and missed free throws at the end of that Oregon game that would have been such an awesome upset early in the year.
And then McKinnon looks like he went through Lake Ginninderra, so I wonder if that's, Australian Institute for Sport then. He's originally from Brisbane.
Yeah.
Yeah, love keeping tabs on Australians in American sports, so glad we mentioned them. But there's a much more important Australian in college basketball right now, especially in the footy context.
Yeah, Alex Condon, the way he's been playing, I don't love the odds of him going back to Collingwood.
Yeah, he's from Perth, actually. I forgot that he was a Westerner, but he signed on with Collingwood as a Category B. If he gets into the NBA, though, that deal will be voided. And when you're averaging 11 points on nearly 50% shooting, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and you're 6'11", looking pretty good right now for his NBA odds, especially after his performances this past week. Back-to-back doubles, taking down number 1 Tennessee at home, and then having some big plays down the stretch in a big road win at Arkansas, which should have been easier than it was, honestly, but
that's such a tough place to play. I think that's the toughest place to play in the SEC because Kentucky's just a bunch of old people that do nothing at their game.
Big arena, though. Tennessee's the same way, but really, do you think people say Bud Walton is the toughest to play at?
I think it is.
And you would know from your 0 games in Fayetteville.
Having watched enough on TV, crowds are way tougher there than at Kentucky. And I have seen Kentucky in person in a 80 to 90% Kentucky crowd in Indianapolis. And it was just a bunch of old people.
Hey, what happened in that game?
They lost to a 15 seed.
Shaheen Holloway.
the people's coach. His team sucks this year.
Was that fortunately
Back, buddy, because I think Andrew Gaze briefly played at Seton Hall.
Yeah, he did for a year. And I think that was a year that they made a deep tournament run, if I'm not mistaken.
And they might have been a Final Four team.
Yeah, they lost in the championship game that year.
I hope they have enough chairs for all the seating in that hall.
That's terrible. Boy. Yeah, Andrew Gaze played for Seton Hall for 1 year, and it was a year that they made it to the national championship game.
And lost to?
As I said, Michigan. This was 1989.
Ah, classy.
And I just realized that means I have met Andrew Gaze's college coach.
PJ Carlesimo?
Very good. His son, I didn't realize at first it was his son because of the age difference, but PJ's son, Casey, is a receiver on the USD football team. Non-scholarship, Division I AA. But when I heard the name Carlesimo on the PA, I was like, okay, there's got to be some connection here. Realized it was his kid and got to see him and talk to him, take a photo with him after that game back in November.
And his father is the subject of one of the best rap lyrics of all time.
I'm the trust be well, I choke the coach.
See, this is one of those things, especially with where rap lyrics are now, that I'm really sad we don't have Alex Trebek anymore, because any of the clues that required him to rap were really funny. And could you imagine him doing some of the lines now?
Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang.
One, wasn't it?
I'm not sure if that was a real one or not.
Let me check. Maybe it wasn't. But there is something about someone stealing a Gucci bracelet from him, and then he hunted it down. But I was thinking of a few lines that would be great for Alex Trebek to rap, such as, "They know me as the Rizzler. I'm the Panther dressed in black. Once I show your girl the Riz face, there's no chance she's coming back."
How about Johnny doing that?
Nah, it's way funnier with Alex. Or, "Think you the shit? Bitch, you ain't even the fart."
Worst song of the year.
I made sure to watch that before the year ended. It is one of my favorite traditions.
Adam Buckley's worst songs of the year.
But he left out the shitty K-pop. So, well, yeah, that's redundant. I'm sorry. The fucking Bruno Mars K-pop garbage. I was going to say shitty K-pop song, but shitty K-pop is redundant because, that implies there's non-shitty K-pop.
You know, Benjamin, 78% of our listeners are between 18 and 35 years old, so they probably want to start a podcast like we did. How did you know that number, Ethan? Thanks to the analytics we have for Spotify for Podcasters. Formerly known as Anchor, sorry Frio fans, Spotify for Podcasters has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer, no fancy software needed. It's so easy you can edit it while drunk. And Spotify for Podcasters doesn't just allow you to upload to Spotify, you can also distribute your podcast on platforms like Apple, Stitcher, and more, just like we do. Best of all, it's completely free. Not only is it free, you can even make money from listener support or ad revenue. Hint, hint. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to podcasters.spotify.com to get started today.
And welcome back to the 2025 premiere of Americans Watching the Footy. I guess it's sort of a season 4 premiere. I'm Ethan Castle. You can find me on Twitter at Castle Media.
You can find the executive producer on Instagram at @CapNamedGryan. He is over 4 years old at this point. Oh, I just heard his bell on the call.
Yep, he's playing laptop.
We've explained that before. I am Benjamin Castle. I'm the one in San Diego doing that ludicrous walk. I am on Twitter at BenjaminHK01, and you can find us on a variety of social outlets at Americans Footy. Do you think we need to get a Blue Sky?
No,
I know there's some of our footy acquaintances who have moved over there full time.
I'm not doing it.
I feel like I would have to just write a script so that it would post all of our main tweets over there without me having to do anything. Probably figure out how to do that, but I guess not in our plans right now.
Now is the part of the show where I talk about stuff that I forgot to talk about before we went to break.
This is a recurring thing.
First off, it's really sad that you can't just walk along the coast for your whole journey, because it would be really funny if you stopped at San Onofre and went honk honk.
Do people know about the nuclear tits?
That feels like something that people know. But basically between LA and San Diego, there's nuclear boobs.
Yeah, San Onofre, I guess is it technically in San Diego County? Yeah. Barely in San Diego County, right next to the border with Orange County to the north. Decommissioned, well, permanently closed, I'll say, nuclear power plant. Yeah, it's unfortunate also just from an aesthetic perspective too, just because some really fun parts of the coast there when you're taking that drive. And as I said, the first leg of my walk is most definitely the scenic. Although it'd be nice once I actually get into LA for the last one, knowing that hopefully by then Hollywood won't be on fire and I can end at the handprints in front of the famous Chinese theater. Also, you know where my stopping point for leg 7 at the start of leg 8 is going to be, right?
Remind me?
Well, it's going to be in Downey, so
Portos.
I don't think that's the original, but Portos.
Let me check.
I thought the original Portos location was in LA.
Yeah. I don't think that spot's still open anymore.
It's like a Cuban bakery and cafe chain around LA and Orange County.
Also, one other Alex Trebek lyric that would have been really fun. I might swerve, bend that corner. Whoa.
Again, all of these could also work with Johnny. I might swerve, bend that corner. Whoa.
Not as funny.
Well, I think it's partially because Alex Trebek off Jeopardy did do a DJ Khaled read along.
Yes, it was I Got the Keys.
Special cloth top, major key.
And I believe at the end he said,
I have no idea what I just read.
And apparently he also did Bad Bougie?
Raindrops, drop tops, bankrolls on me, keep me company.
What else did we forget?
One of the local high school players on one of the teams I've written about is from Perth. Found out he's an Eagles fan. I want to get enough terms to just be able to tell him every time I see him to enjoy Harley Reid while he can.
Or just enjoy the fact that Brady Hoff is the Eagles' best kept non-secret.
Also, I was disappointed to see, Hayden Young signing his extension, but I'd rather see him at Frio than at Collingwood or Hawthorne or Carleton or something. So it's what it is.
He has the total look, though, where, if you look at his hair, he could use a thin headband.
And a small family farm. Not interested in castrating some bulls?
There was concern about him, actually, about potential injury to his fibula, but he did not refracture the bone, so he should be good to go. I'm looking for, in terms of players bouncing back from injury, Riley Philthorpe did it at the end of last year, but I'm looking forward to a full season of Riley Philthorpe and of Isaac Rankin, just hopefully healthy Adelaide in general. Rankin honestly could have made the All-Australian team last year had he played one more game.
I'm not looking forward to it during the
Gather round.
but I'm looking forward to it most of the season.
Oh yeah, they totally botched the scheduling of that, having Geelong playing in the opening of
What's new?
Gather round.
and then the super long break before Easter Monday.
Between that and opening round, I'm not complaining. Get a couple of lengthy breaks in.
I guess Adelaide have been requesting the start of that round because Port tend to request the Anzac weekend home game, but I would have wanted to see Port open with a battle of the bars. Instead, you've got Collingwood and Sydney once again playing outside Melbourne. So I was amazed they actually did double up this past year. Before the break, we were also talking about Australians in America, and we didn't talk about the American football side of things. There are 2 Australians on active NFL rosters in the playoffs. They both won this past weekend.
Yeah, Daniel Fa'alele, who at the start of the year was borderline unplayable, has actually been pretty good lately. He's from Melbourne, and then Jordan Mailata from Bankstown. I didn't watch really any of the Eagles-Packers game. I decided to go on a little hike.
And I only watched snippets of that game because I was out in Palm Desert watching minor league hockey and eating at a really good deli. Thank you, Ethan, for the recommendation.
Was it fun eating around people 3 times your age?
You do have a lot of old people who retire out there if they've got the money for it.
It's a lot of old people.
It was funny. It was 62 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's 16, 17 degrees Celsius. They literally put on the heat for me at the table. And I had to ask them to turn it off.
See, in the daytime, that's funny. At night, sure. Because, low humidity and no warmth from sunshine. I get how that could be a thing. But in the daytime, that's very funny.
And the wind hadn't really picked up yet. It didn't pick up until once I was actually in the building. Super nice arena there, which was built just a couple years ago for the new minor league hockey team there, the Coachella Valley Firebirds. But yeah, Fa'alele, who I believe that was the heaviest ever NFL player because of one of his preseason weights. Of course, we can't talk about weight anymore. And then Mailata, much more publicized, obviously, had been training with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs before getting his American football offer. No Australian punters active in the playoffs because the Steelers punter, who is Australian, was hurt at the start of the year. I don't think he played at all. Cameron Johnston. Johnston was on Melbourne's list, I think, in 2011 after being a rookie draftee, but never managed a game at the AFL level. But there are also plenty of Australian punters in the college game. And in fact, we're going to have two of them in the national championship game Monday, the 20th. So I guess that's going to be morning to afternoon, Tuesday, the 21st in Australia. And I think by far the funniest part of it is that Eddie Maguire's son, Joe, is actually a damn good punter for Ohio State.
And hopefully not a wanker.
It's just incredibly funny to me that, I'm not totally surprised about it, that the fact that he's there, but the fact that he's as quality of a punter that he is, that's almost funnier than if he were absolute trash.
What are the odds? He comes out to punt during the national championship game and Chris Fowler or whoever mentions his dad. I want to say 4%. Is that a little high?
I feel like we're going to get something about them both being Australian.
Yeah, but maybe not. But I want to know specifically, something like his father, Eddie, was president of the famed Collingwood Football Club.
I feel like they'd be more likely to mention his career as a TV host.
So what are the odds that Collingwood specifically gets mentioned during the national championship game?
I like your 4%. And then Notre Dame has James Rundell, son of Matt Rundell, who died a couple years back, the old Fitzroy captain and best and fairest of the 80s. James played for Frankston between 2019 and 23. I don't think Joe had any professional footy experience at all, but obviously both of them went through Pro Kick Australia.
So that's a lot about Australians in America, but what about Americans in Australia? I'm going to be visiting, and hopefully you will as well, sometime in probably July. And outside of actually going to games, I really don't have all that much in mind yet, other than Adelaide. I want to see this dolphin sanctuary. Definitely going to drive the Great Ocean Road and spend a night in Warrnambool. But other than that, what should I or we do? Most of the time is going to be in Melbourne. There'll probably be a few days in Perth and Adelaide. What sort of stuff should we do? I want to do normal stuff. I want to go to Bunnings and get a sausage. I'm definitely going to hit up Red Rooster because we see all the ads for it. But other than that,
open trainings, obviously.
But what should we do? What neighborhood should we hang out in? Where's the cool shit besides, the central business district? And I'll put out tweets asking for this too. I've got a couple of restaurants picked out, one of which simply because Dan Bennett shouted it out in his video.
I think it's more likely than not, again, that I won't be able to go just because July is still going to be a time where I'm going to be finishing up my master's thesis and I'm going to be having to do some in-person stuff for that.
Maybe you'd only be able to go for 1 week or a week and a half instead of the full thing.
Again, we'll have to see once the summer schedule is finalized from my program at USD. But I know June I'm going to be busy still with summer class in there and just finishing up master stuff. And also I might have to be looking for new housing at that time too, depending on where I end up getting a job. So there's a lot of stuff to factor in there, but I do hope to make it, if not this year, maybe 2027, maybe after I'm stable as a teacher for a couple of years. This year would be fun though, also in July, because you'd have the Lions tour going on. So if you want to catch some high quality rugby union.
Speaking of Americans in Australia, Australian Open, I'm literally watching Beb Shelton right now. And I know Mason's been out at the tournament already. It's a very long way for him, a whole 5-minute walk from Collingwood's training center.
I love how close so much is in terms of it's like a whole sports district there in East Melbourne with the MCG, Punt Road, Amy Park, the Collingwood Training Center, and then you've got the whole tennis complex right there as well. Like all within walking distance, and Gosh's is there too. It's honestly amazing that it's all like right in that area. And you're starting to see some like North American cities try to plan out a sporting district like that. Detroit is one that I think of where they were like trying to build everything in the area once the Red Wings decided to build a new place and the Pistons decided to move in with them at Little Caesars Arena. Philly is another, KC's another. Baltimore has its 2 venues right next to each other too. But this is a whole different level here with just how many venues there are.
I wish Damian Hardwick was still at Richmond so he could complain about how far it was from them to get to go watch tennis, a whole 17-minute walk.
Man, I hate coming here.
Or if he took the Gabe Kapler approach and just walked faster, it could be like 14 minutes. Don't let that make you get in the car. That is a meeting I would love to see. Damian Hardwick meets Gabe Kapler. 2 really weird people.
Walking from the MCG to Marvel Stadium, that's what, a little over 2 miles, I think?
2 to 3.
Yeah, not bad. You can do that in less than an hour.
But again, as Gabe Kapler said, just walk faster. Don't let that make you get in the car.
In terms of Aussie Open stories, Nick Kyrgios is a joke. Good riddance. I'm amazed at the type of crowds he drew when it was very clear that he was way past it.
No, he's definitely washed at this point. I'm not questioning that. I don't mind the guy.
The big story so far, I guess, would be we're not getting that school in Victoria. You might recall Stefanos Tsitsipas a few years back said he would like build a school in Victoria if he won the Aussie Open. And he was the first seed out of this tournament by way of a Southern California kid.
Which is really disappointing because I love watching him play and he's struggled a lot.
Yeah. Alex Michelson is 20 years old from Aliso Viejo. So if I managed to take the coastal route, that's a place that I would have been walking through because that's that whole Laguna area there. But yeah, there's something else going on in the sporting world as well. All sorts of cricket. And I've definitely watched more cricket from like March 2024 through now than I had in my entire life before then. And I've really started to appreciate Test cricket. The Border Gavaskar Trophy, I got really invested in because I had the time to, at least for the Boxing Day and New Year's Test during my winter break.
I am not that into Test cricket, but the last day of the Boxing Day Test was pretty cool.
You even got our dad to watch that with us.
And I did enjoy, it was South Africa, Pakistan, where Rickleton was up there for like double century almost.
Almost.
It was a double century, right? It was like 300 some balls. See, that was cool.
259, Ethan. It was 259 from 343 balls. I think he finally ended up being caught before tea on the second day. And that was his first time opening in a test. South Africa might give Australia some fits at that World Championship in May at Lord's. And I'll hopefully have some time to watch that near the end of my spring semester then. But I love that that cricket can be a year-round sport because of the prominence of Australia. And I know, Ethan, BBL and T20 has been pretty easy for you to get into. I mean, IPL was definitely our gateway. For you, though, I think it started with a major league match, right?
I saw bits and pieces of it, yeah, but when I really got hooked was IPL. And that is still like the peak to me. Also, it's just fun watching all the Indian stuff, whether it be the ads or, the dancers. There's a lot to it that I prefer over any other version of cricket. But I've come to the conclusion that T20 is great because you can actually sit down and watch it in full. Test cricket is a pain for that. But I think like the best in terms of like what would be the best actual like flow of a match, I think would be something in the 35 to 40 over range where it's, because sometimes I get like the frustrations with T20 where it just gets kind of sloppy. And I get that you don't want to see that.
And it's cool at times to see like the equivalent of a home run derby, but that's also not quite what cricket usually is. And that's why I think, Ethan, when the Champions Trophy rolls around next month, that's a chance for you to really get into some ODI cricket. I do, now thinking back, remember watching a decent amount of some World Cup matches in 2023, mostly Australia's, but also like the crazy couple wins by the Netherlands in that. But I think like something that was the length of the women's Ashes ODI today would have been perfect for you. Decent flow to the match. I was entertained watching the end of that too, just couldn't watch a lot of the match because of my class. I think ODI is going to end up being your sweet spot.
I've thought about that, but I think like factoring in like the amount of time you need to devote to it and stuff, like to really like be at a point where you're locked in watching pretty much every ball as Brian jumps over me. I think the sweet spot would be like in the 35 to 40 range.
For you, and well, a lot of the time sides are bowled out within that range too.
Yeah, I've definitely grown to appreciate cricket more. I just hope as T20 develops that like there's real loyalties built to some of these teams, because like face it, and this goes in line with like celebrity culture in India, you know, the IPL's a lot of dick riding.
I mean, that's what happens when your teams change every 3 years, because that's how a lot of money is made.
Yeah, that also doesn't help.
We'll see what ends up happening as Major League Cricket expands too. It is cool seeing, you know, major Australian players like Steve Smith and Travis Head coming over here to play. And hopefully they end up building that stadium at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds, or maybe convert the Oakland Coliseum to a cricket oval. It's already circular. One of the big things that I realized during the Border Gavaskar Trophy, Sam Constas is to cricket as Jack Ginnivan is to footy.
I think he does less to kind of like try to rile people up, whereas, you know, Ginnivan kind of like plays the crowd.
He didn't at first, though, I think. Just people were mad about how he played, and then he bought into it, and it became a sort of positive feedback thing. Constas hasn't gotten to that level yet, but I can see it coming. Another solid 50 for him in the Sydney Thunder's last match. And it's nice seeing this sort of changing in the guard in Test cricket somewhat, with one of the younger guys coming in. It's funny, though, otherwise, how all these guys that are debuting for Australia are like in their 30s. Bo Webster is 30. Scott Boland was 33 when he debuted. Now he's already probably going to get 2 statues, or should get 2 statues. The other thing that was cool watching that series was seeing the players that I had thought really highly of in the IPL performing well for India, particularly on the younger side with Yashasvi Jaiswal and N.K. Reddy.
I can't imagine Mayank Yadav would ever get a chance to be a Test cricketer, but it would be fun.
I mean, there are some batsmen and bowlers both who are just much better with the limited overs format. Glenn Maxwell is the prime example. I don't get why the Stars are batting him down at 6, by the way. That seems like a continuously missed opportunity for them, even though they've been winning as of late. I also don't know what to think about the quality of the BVL. Like, does it say more about the Big Bash's quality or Steve Smith's quality when he comes back in right away from international duty and hits 121 not out off 64?
I don't know. It definitely like a little bit sloppier than the IPL in terms of like, you know, the amount of wide balls and things like that.
Oh, that Steckity over was hilarious.
You'll have to explain. I didn't see this.
This was Mark Steckity in the Melbourne Stars last match. So in the second Melbourne Derby, which was at Marvel Stadium,
Saw they had 38,000.
yeah, pretty good crowd for that. Yeah, Maxwell was in at 6. He hit 90 off 52. I just makes no sense why he's being put so far down in the order, but it was the first over of the Renegades batting innings. I'm going to have to scroll all the way down for this because like this speaks to your point about sloppiness.
Does this get a dramatic reading?
Sorry, it's the second over. It was Steckity's first. So Mark Steck, and it starts with Josh Brown at the striking end. Steckity to Brown, wide. Steckity to Brown, wide. Steckity to Brown, wide. Steckity to Brown, dot ball. Steckity to Brown, dot ball. Steckity to Brown, wide. Steckity to Brown, 1 run. Steckity to Harris, out, caught by Duckett. Steckity to Fraser McGurk, 1 run. Steckity to Brown, out. So in that over, 4 wides, 2 other runs, and 2 wickets. It speaks completely to the sort of sloppiness that you see a lot of the time in the Big Bash. And Fraser McGurk's one who's disappointed as well. He wasn't out in that over, but his performance has just taken a nosedive since May, and I don't get it.
See, at least that one, that's funny, though. That version of, that's kind of like, like an Archimedes Caminero or something, dude who throws 100 and has no idea where it's going.
Wanderson Charles?
Yes. Exactly.
Honestly, Wanderson Charles is, I think, the best comparison here. Where is he these days?
Great question.
Looks like he went 1-7 this year in the minors.
He's still in the Orioles organization.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, looks like he spent most of the year in their AAA with Norfolk.
I think he's also playing with maybe a Mexican team or something.
Or like a Dominican Winter League team. He is Dominican.
Yeah, he is in the DSL. Okay.
With a name like Wanderson, it's got to be Dominican. But this guy, it's basically all strikeouts for walks for him. And it feels like that Steckity over had a very similar feeling. That to me is like so much more entertaining, though, than a maiden over in Test cricket.
Which I assume is like...
No runs.
Yeah, that's just boring.
Yeah, like a maiden over and like no wickets or anything like that. Wicket maiden, okay, at least something happened. But for so long in that Boxing Day test, it felt like, shit, this is just going to be a draw. It's all this great start and the drama is going to be meaningless. And then day 5 was actually fantastic.
That is one of my complaints about Test cricket. To play for 5 days and have the possibility of not, we ended up with the exact same amount of runs, but one team just didn't finish. It's so just an unlimited number of overs. Just, we're going to keep doing this until either you're all out or you've scored enough.
They used to have timeless tests before the Second World War.
We need to bring it back.
What they at least need to have, and I think this would get rid of a lot of draws, is that there needs to be like at least one makeup day in place so that every test gets 15 sessions in. The fact that there's no backup day in case of rain is hard to believe.
Yeah, and that's one of the other dumb things that needs to be fixed with Test cricket.
I don't know what it would take for that to happen, if it would have to take the USA or Canada getting test status for that, but that needs to happen. Just actually getting results. Else for us to talk about here? Oh.
The Collingwood thing? Or the Carlton thing?
Yeah, for once it's not Collingwood. Well, Collingwood and Carlton both have their fair share of controversies, but Carlton, you expect it to be, a salary cap type thing or injury mismanagement.
Or insider trading.
Well, I think there was some potential insider trading here. Just a very different manner of insider trading. Because Luke Sayers was allegedly hacked. Nah, he tried to send a dick pic as a DM and ended up posting it as a regular tweet instead.
I don't know. Was there a caption with it? Or was it just the photo by itself?
It was a photo, apparently. I didn't see it. It was a photo, and he also, tagged a female CEO of one of the club's key sponsors.
And did he say anything?
Again, I haven't seen the original, so...
I'm inclined to think that he probably did it himself, but there's a chance someone got to messing with him.
Okay. From descriptions that I'm seeing, the photo is censored, and it looks like it's just tagging a female CEO of one of Carlton's leading sponsors. The fact that he's tagging someone in it, and also that he was able to log in and delete it within 5 minutes, just makes me think that he was trying to send this as a DM and it completely backfired.
Yeah, I'd say at least 80% chance that's what happened.
And are they trying to just ignore it and hope people forget it happens?
Honestly, that might be their best plan of action. Just hope it goes away.
If anyone prevents it from going away, we know it'll be Pies fans.
Yeah. And if they want to, that's totally within their rights.
And I could see continued publicity and stuff from Pies fans leading to actual consequences too.
And that's going to be a really fun subtext to the rivalry Imagine that, like, heading into a game this year.
Oh, what rounds are those?
I know one of them is possibly when I could be there.
Let's see, we've got Thursday in round 4, and then round 17 at some time. Yeah, the round 4 one, that's going to be some ripe conversation there. And if Carlton come up limp, it's going to be especially funny.
Limp. Well, I don't think he was limp.
Apparently he was.
Oh, that's even better.
That's going to just about do it for us for this season 4 premiere. Coming up in the near future, maybe look at some team wish lists as we get toward a full home and away preview. We'll have a better idea of some potential new positions and training spots. Maybe this year we'll be able to actually get our fantasy footy draft up in a full stream with Coach Donnie Hess, our All-American League, which is such a blast. I'm not a fan of fantasy like any other sport, but fantasy footy,
I mean, fantasy baseball's fun.
it's still tough for me to get around the concept of supporting players on teams I don't like. I think that's it. And I don't have any team that I absolutely hate with every fiber of my being yet, though if it ends up being any club, it'll probably be the Blues. And obviously more updates will be coming on my walk. Once I figure out what my end date is, hell yeah, that's going to be publicized.
I hope that there's going to be and we've talked about this possibility of one person clapping when
Rick.
or have a tiny little confetti popper thingy, like a really one.
It would also be funny if it were just me all alone, just completely gassed in front of the Chinese theater with no clear explanation. It's all completely meaningless, like life itself. But based on my posts and stuff, I had non-footy based friends reach out and ask about it. Hopefully those of them who are in SoCal are all right, and hopefully I'll be able to see them as I continue this saga. Keep looking for updates on that at Americans Footy. You might see some of it on r/AFL or maybe the AFL Discord as well. Individually, I'm at BenjaminHK01 on Twitter.
I am at Castle Media.
And where's our executive producer?
Running around right now. He's not in here. Just having fun.
At Cat Named Brian on Instagram. Good time of day to you all.